the EPAWA headquarters in South Allentown, Pennsylvania, it's time for Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The following segment is a weekly video blog, and the opinions of the forecaster do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the staff of Eastern PA Weather Authority LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrus with Weather Weeklies.
And good Sunday morning to everybody. This is the last Sunday in November. Of course, we're starting into December starting tomorrow, and this is our fourth edition of Weather Weeklies. This is a weekly video blog that will go throughout the entire winter, and if it has success like it has been so far, we'll continue as we throughout the year. Here is, first we're going to start off with look at our zonal flow right now, and this is what we're expecting for the next couple of weeks. And there's a question on exactly when this ends, but a zonal flow, very simply, a zonal flow is when you're talking about a west to east flow. So you see all these lines here on the map, that might be hard to see, but these are your this is your vorticity up at 500 millibar. That's everything's kind of going like this: west to east, west to east, west to east. There's no big dips and no big troughs in the jet stream, no big ridges. Okay, so this is what's driving your jet stream. You can see that everything's a west-east flow. That's going to do a couple things. One, that's going to keep the pattern very fast. So whatever you're seeing today or tomorrow might not be what you see the day after or the day after that. So these it's going to allow for these systems to move from west-east pretty quickly. It's also going to allow for temperatures to stay pretty close to normal. So we're not talking about any huge dips in temperature that's on the colder side, or any huge rises in temperature. You might have some temporary spikes, or one day it's you're up in the 40s and 50s, and the next day you're back down to the 30s again. But we're not talking about anything extreme here, as far as you're not talking about 70s and you're not talking about 20s. So we're talking about just a pretty much on plus or minus 10 of the temperature, and then we'll go up and down a little bit as you get these little waves and impulses coming through, mostly dynamically. The dynamically enhanced systems, I would say, so that if you're on what I mean by that is if you have a low pressure that's sitting up here like this in this position, you're going to be on the warm side of it. You're going to have warm air come out ahead of it until this moves through, drags its cold front through, and then a wind shift to the northwest and you get colder. So depending on position of where that sets up, obviously if it was down here to the south, you have low pressure sitting here, you have colder air coming on the northwest side, warm air coming in on the southeastern side here like this. So just the position of the low pressure will, the dynamics of it will determine whether you're going to get the cooler or the warmer side of things. Now I do think we're going to have a shot at some wintry stuff today, this week, but very minor. We'll get into that in this video here, and also want to do a recap of the storm we had last week, or a couple days ago actually. Just to give you an idea, a different perspective on that. I know a lot of people were like, "Wow, you guys did really great with this storm," and others are saying, "Nope, we didn't get anywhere near your predicted totals." And I'm going to show you why, and actually show you a different perspective that might have you rethinking that. Here's our long-range pattern. This is the same as last week. And I do want to say something about the long-range pattern here after we before we get into this. This long-range pattern was updated once every 2 weeks in the off-season. It's going to continue to be updated every 2 weeks in the off-season. Once we're hit December 1st, we're going to go pretty heavy into an every day or every other day update of the long range, as long as there's not model analysis to be done by meteorologist Mike DeFino. Of course, we have our model analysis. We handle the short range for our private premium members, so that takes up his time that he would be spending on the long range pattern. What we're going to start doing is not just identifying temperature, we're going to identify storms that we're watching, time periods for storms coming up. And it's going to change daily or every other day. And right now we have these periods outlined that we think that this right now that we're in today, that we're going to below normal. We had this identified for a couple weeks now. And that is the case. It is obviously below average yet. But we're going to be heading into a period there where we have near or slightly above normal average temperatures. This says above average here. This is actually slightly above. And that's because we're getting the zonal flow that I was just talking about. So it does promote the temperatures being on the mild side when you're in a zonal pattern. So the question is, when does this end? And right now he has it ending somewhere around the 15th, and we flip it to a sustained cold and wintry pattern. And I really think, just looking at the latest stuff that we're taking a look at now, I really think that does take place. But there's just some question on when that does exactly flip. So that's not a guarantee. We will follow that going forward. But right now you're dealing with a zonal flow west-east flow in the meantime, which you have system on top of system, not really a break. If you don't like the weather today, just wait till tomorrow is what we say in the zonal flow. Okay, we're going to get into this minor snow possible on Tuesday night. Now, this is a frontal boundary that's going to be moving off to the north here, but there's going to be some cold air in place on the northern side of this right here, and you can see that. Actually have a chance of some freezing rain and drizzle back here, but actually would start off as snow here for areas across northeastern PA and east central PA, but this will be going over to rain, we think, and all the models are pretty much sold on this idea that they're going to have the snow to start, and then it's going to go over to some sleet, perhaps even some freezing rain. Very minor, very light. This is not a big deal, but and then eventually going over to rain. So go into the 6 hour later look here. You can see these greens here are all rain now. Everything's changed over, and all your frozen precipitation is stuck up here across New York State, maybe a little bit back here in State College, or just west of State College there. But again, this is just a frontal boundary moving through, so you're might have some snow showers or maybe some minor accumulations out ahead of it. The models are also sold that there's going to be some minor accumulations here, and you can see I would probably ignore this stuff down here by southeast PA, Philadelphia, and concentrate my efforts probably north and west of a line like this. So probably right along, from the Harrisburg area to Allentown up to northwest New Jersey, up here, up in northern Morris County and points northwest. Okay. That's where you have your opportunity for some accumulating snow. But these grays on this map here are all under an inch of precipitation until you get into these heavier dark grays and blues. This is probably closer to 2 inches, inch and a half, 2 inches. But you can see it's very minor. We're not dealing with much in the way of precipitation anyway in terms of intensity. So we will go over to rain either way, and that will wash all this out of here. Whatever falls here on Tuesday night. This will be Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, and then Wednesday morning I think it flips over. We'll get the timing nailed down, of course, with our My Pocket Meteorologist members, and send those alerts out as need be. And then we have another system round 2 later in the week. Now this one here has trended warmer. Earlier in the week it was looking like we were looking at the long range stuff. It looked like this one had the better potential to be more wintry, and it does look like the cold air is going to erode enough that you're going to have a mostly rain event as we head into, this is heading until the next weekend, Friday, Saturday time frame, and we might have again maybe very brief up here, even further up, and even less of a duration, some flakes to start out, and then it changes over to rain pretty quickly. But we'll keep an eye on this one too. But again, it doesn't look like a big deal. We're still just being in that zonal flow doesn't really allow you to get these really cold air masses in place. So. Something worth watching, but right now it doesn't look like a big deal. I want to get into the system that we just had this past Wednesday. This is the day before Thanksgiving. This is what the models were showing here with the dynamic cooling setup. We did have the dynamic cooling here, but it wasn't as impressive as we thought it would be, and that's because this area of low pressure really didn't get going until it got up here. All right, we had it looked like the polar shortwave that was diving into this thing was a little bit late doing so. The southern stream was able to run out ahead of it just enough that it hindered the development of the system until it really got up here. So the dynamic cooling was better for areas up in here. Okay, so they got some pretty good snow up there. We got some pretty good snow here too. It's just because we had just enough cold temperatures, and then the heavier precipitation falling allowed this to fall in the form of snow. But your dynamic cooling was basically limited to this area right here. So areas around I-95 really didn't benefit from that because this system was just not strong enough to really generate its own cold air until it got past our latitude. That's really what happened with that. But we still did quite well. Now I do want to show you. Here's our final call map, and what we did is superimposed snow totals by county. And these are. Now you can call these cherry picking data. You can call it cherry picking data here, but I don't think so. I mean, if this is the highest amounts that were reported by county, some of you are looking at these numbers here and go, wait a minute, we didn't have that. Like Harrisburg had about 2 inches. Highest in Dauphin County was 6, which would have fell in our ranges here. So when you're drawing a map, I just need you guys to understand something. When you're drawing a map here, it is impossible for me to sit here and say, okay, Harrisburg is only going to be 2 inches, but we're going to go up in the northeast corner here of Dauphin County. We're going to color code them in the 5 to 9. You can't do that. You have to put it over a broad area. It does not mean that every single person in this area is going to get 5 to 9. It has the highest likelihood of having 5 to 9 inches. And you can see that with these totals here. And these totals were, in fact, in that range. But if you go on every single county, the exception we didn't get to here was in Lancaster County. You might have some across the northern parts of that county that didn't report in that had that amount. I don't know. The bottom line is you can't make a map with just like circles around cities and expect that it's going to be spot on here. For the general idea of what we did here, it was pretty good. The area we struggle with, and we knew this going in, this is going to be a battle zone, was right along I-95 here, that you're going to have a tough battle zone between cold and warm, and you can see that. Philadelphia had 7/10 of an inch of snow. Delaware County did fit in our range here at 3.3. But most of that melted. It fell and then it melted again. So you were dealing with a lot of that when the precipitation lightened up. It actually lightened up in intensity, and then it went back over to rain in some cases. And then you'll have that when you have a dynamically cooled system. You're going to need that precipitation to be heavy. As the whole concept of it. When it's heavier, it brings down the cold air from above. When it's lighter, that cold is not brought down to the surface by the heavier precipitation. And some areas they go back over to rain because of that. That was actually prevalent across Chester and Lancaster County as well. We had some reports during the storm that it was going back over to rain, and it was lighter precipitation, but it was still rain nonetheless. So those kind of things hindered totals. The fact that it was so wet, such a heavy wet snow, brought these totals down too. You actually had the snow compacting against each other. So there's a lot of different things that go into it. The most difficult thing to do as a meteorologist is to figure out the first and last storms of the season. I'll say that every single year, because usually you're dealing with a storm either November or late March. And when you have the same kind of system here that just will play, the models will say, oh yeah, we're getting hit. And then you have to say, well, wait a minute. Is this really going to happen? The ratio is going to be that good? Do we really have this it might look great in the models, but we're going to have the cold air. We're going to have the storm bombing out off the ocean here. There's so many factors that go into it, and we had to decide. And I think based on what we came up with, I think we had a pretty darn good map here. The only part we were in question was along I-95, really, and a few isolated people who let us know about it. That hey, you missed projections down here. Again, you might call cherry-picking data, but there's some areas Reading City had 2 inches. There's areas in Berks County that had 9 inches of snow. So did we really nail it? Did we really blow it? No, we can't say we did. But you can't say we nailed it either, because this is, again, cherry-picking data, picking the highest totals per county. But you kind of have to draw your map off that. Yeah, that's my point. So just to understand how we do this, it should be getting much easier going forward. If this was a storm in January, this would have been a lot easier of a call, because you wouldn't be dealing with this, hoping for dynamics to kick in order for this to work out. So you already have the cold air in place. There's really not a question. It's just these big storms that you have earlier on the season in November and again in March or even April that give you the trouble. And for a November storm, this is quite impressive. Quite impressive snow total. So already getting a pretty good jump on the season. A lot of people have asked us, is it going to affect your winter outlook and your totals, your winter outlook? Now we had all the snow, and the answer is no, because our period from December 1st through March 31st is our winter outlook. Okay, so and we're still expecting that on top of whatever you got now. Consider this bonus snow. Last thing I want to touch on is the My Pocket Meteorologist program we have, and we have had a lot of signups for this program during the past storm. Continue to sign up for this program. It'll give you the actually information down to your county specifically of what to expect, including timing and impacts, how much snow you're going to get, how much ice you're going to get, how much rain you're going to get, give you the changeover times and everything. This is all going to be sent directly to your phone or email. And the thing is, people say, well, you do public maps. Why should I pay for something like that? Well, this is going to not only give you information specific to your county, but it's also going to start warning you 5 days in advance. And then every 24 hours after that. So you're going to get an update every single day. If numbers changed, if the storm changed track, anything like that, we'll give you that information every single day leading up to it. And this is something you won't get publicly. We'll start talking about, hey, we might have a storm next week, and that's it. Not how much. You'll start getting the questions on the Facebook page. Or how much am I expecting in my backyard? we don't give that there. We give that here on the My Pocket Meteorologist. So this is more specific. It's impossible for us to sit there and just give totals on the Facebook page because for everyone, it's just not a possibility. We're going to be sitting there all day. So that's what this program is for. We'll send it right to you. There is no question. You know exactly what you're going to get. I am Eastern PA Weather 30 meteorologist Bobby Marchers. That is this edition of Weather Weeklies, and we'll see you again next Sunday. Take care.